Hello everyone. Thanks for clicking on today's story. This one's about silence, sacrifice, and a kind of love that doesn't shout. It lingers quietly in the background, waiting to be heard. Let's start with a question. What would you do if the person you love was about to marry someone else? What if your return to them wasn't met with joy, but with polite acceptance, as if you were a memory instead of a choice? That's where we meet Tuna. And as her story unfolds, we'll see just how much a single decision can weigh, especially when it involves a mother, a sister, an old woman in the hills, and a man she can't quite forget. Stick around till the end. The final scene might catch you off guard. And hey, if you like these kinds of stories, the ones that speak quietly but hit deep, consider subscribing. We're pushing for 1,000 followers, and your support means the world. All right, let's begin. Tuna wasn't trying to eavesdrop. She was outside, crouched next to a shallow basin, gently washing her baby's clothes. The water rippled softly under her hands when a voice floated in from the kitchen window. It was Alex's mother. She was on the phone. Her tone? Light, cheerful. "She's from a powerful family," the mother said. "Graceful, polite. If Alex marries her, it'd be the perfect match." The words didn't hit Tuna like a slap. They seeped in, cold, slow, like rain soaking into stone. She paused mid-scrub, fingers resting on the baby's onesie. She wasn't mentioned, not once. That silence? It echoed louder than any rejection. She sat there for a long time, the sounds of the farm fading into a strange, thick quiet. Alex had been looking for her. He'd waited, left gifts. But now, Tuna found herself wondering, was that love or obligation dressed in gentleness? Later that night, with her baby sound asleep beside her, Tuna lay staring at the ceiling of the small wooden room. She thought of Alex. His eyes, warm but cautious. His voice, always soft when he said her name, followed by a pause like he was waiting for something she never quite gave. Maybe she was a detour. Maybe she was just the chapter before the real story began. Tuna didn't cry. She rarely did. But something inside her shifted that night. Like bamboo bending in the wind. Quiet, but irreversible. Her certainty about coming back to the farm, about building something new, started to dissolve. Meanwhile, miles away, Alex stood in front of a mirror. The truth was right there in the glass. He looked exhausted, hair too long, brushing his collar, a shadow of stubble across his jaw, eyes dulled by sleepless nights. His mother noticed. She fussed gently, scolding him for letting himself go. But Alex didn't explain. Didn't say that, ever since Tuna left, nothing had felt the same. Meals were flavorless. Sleep came late and left early. And even the constant hum of the farm couldn't fill the space she left behind. He missed her. Not just her presence, but the quiet way she moved around the kitchen. The softness in her voice when she spoke to the baby. The way she avoided his eyes when feelings got too loud. That morning, after a silent breakfast, Alex stood up, grabbed his coat, and mumbled, "I'm going to get a haircut." Nobody asked why, but they noticed. At the barber shop, the clippers buzzed and the scissors clicked. It wasn't a big change, but for Alex, it was a reset, a way to prepare for whatever came next. Whether or not Tuna chose to return, he wanted to be ready, not as a man burdened by guilt, but someone she could meet without looking away. Back at the house, The scent of warm rice and stir-fried eggs drifted through the rooms. Alex walked in as his mother set the table. His sister looked up, offering a small nod. It all felt familiar, but empty, because Tuna wasn't there. As they sat down, his mother smiled carefully. "I made Tuna's favorite," she said. Like saying her name out loud might somehow bring her back. Alex looked down at his plate. "She's safe," he murmured. "But I don't know if she'll come back." His sister froze, chopsticks midair. A flicker of something, regret, guilt, crossed her face. "I said things I shouldn't have," she said quietly. "Back at the farm, I was wrong." No one replied. The silence wasn't heavy. It was full, packed with things that had waited too long to be said. "I want to see her," the sister added. "Not to change her mind, just to apologize." Alex didn't say anything. He only nodded, his gaze locked on a dish neither of them touched. Elsewhere in the village, Tuna sat by the window, her baby curled next to her. She didn't know about the meal, or the words being offered. But somehow, the air shifted. Like forgiveness had finally taken its first breath. The path to Tuna's small wooden home twisted through quiet hills. When the knock came, she wasn't expecting anyone. She opened the door, and there was Alex's sister. No pride, no coldness, just sincerity. Tuna stepped aside. They sat near the doorway, sunlight falling in slanted beams across the floor. "I came to say I'm sorry," the sister said. "I was harsh. I thought I was protecting Alex, but I was unfair to you." Tuna didn't move. Her hands rested quietly in her lap. "I didn't understand," the sister continued. "And that's on me." Tuna met her eyes. "It's all right," she said gently. "People say things when they're scared." The baby stirred nearby, a tiny exhale in sleep. They both smiled. For a moment, the weight in the room lifted. "I heard you might not come back," the sister added softly. Tuna looked out the window, toward the trees. The light was fading. "I haven't decided," she whispered. She didn't mention the phone call, the sting of being left out, or how one conversation had quietly unspooled everything she thought she wanted. The sister nodded. "Whatever you choose, I hope it brings you peace." And then she left. No pressure, no guilt. Just two women parting ways. One lighter, one still holding something unnamed. Later that evening, Alex arrived. He stood outside for a long moment, watching the smoke curl up from the chimney, listening to the wind in the trees. Then he knocked. Tuna opened the door. They didn't speak right away. There was no need. The silence between them held more than any greeting could. The baby let out a soft sound from inside. Alex smiled faintly. "I just wanted to see if you'd made up your mind." Tuna hesitated. Behind her, Batong, the old woman, approached, gently bouncing the baby. "He's come every day," she said, "always asking, always hoping." Tuna looked down. "I don't know yet," she replied quietly. "I'm grateful, but I need more time." Alex didn't argue. He stepped aside. "I can wait." Then almost too softly, "I want you to come back. Not because you owe me anything, but because you want to." Alex didn't say another word. He quietly helped load her things into the back of the car, handling each bag with a kind of gentleness that didn't ask for anything in return. Tuna turned away from the doorway, hiding her face from both him and Batong. A single tear slipped down her cheek. She couldn't tell whether it came from sorrow or relief. Maybe it was both. The air around them smelled faintly of bamboo, and the fading light of day. Leaves rustled overhead, the dusk settling in like a blanket. Alex gently strapped in the baby's belongings, never once pushing her for answers, never once asking for more than what she was willing to give. In that silence, something small but steady began to rebuild. A fragile trust, quietly pieced together with every unspoken gesture. The road back to the farm curved through rolling hills, shrouded in the hush of early evening. Tuna sat in the passenger seat, the baby asleep in her arms, wrapped in a soft blanket that still carried the scent of the little wooden house. Alex kept his eyes on the road, hands steady on the wheel. He didn't speak, not because he didn't want to, but because some silences carry more weight than words. Tuna stared out the window, watching the trees pass by, the faint outline of fields she once knew, and the thin trail of smoke curling from the farmhouse chimney. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt familiar. Inside, she was split. A part of her longed for the stillness she had with Batong, the quiet mornings, the sound of the wind weaving through the hills, the smell of mung beans cooking over a fire. It was a life where no one asked questions, where she didn't have to explain herself, where she wasn't watched so closely. It was safe, predictable. But another part of her stirred, moved by the way Alex glanced into the rearview mirror to check on the baby, by how gently he'd carried her bags, by how he had never once asked, "Why did you leave?" He hadn't asked about the phone call either. She didn't know if he even knew. Maybe it didn't matter. Or maybe it mattered too much. She wasn't sure if this return was a beginning or just a softer way of facing an ending. She looked down at her child, brushing a fingertip gently along the baby's cheek. The baby stirred a little, then sighed, safe in her arms. The road ahead twisted into the coming night. Tuna didn't know where this path would lead, whether she had a place in Alex's life, or whether she was just passing through again. But for now, she was going back. Not to a promise, but to a possibility. The gates of the farm creaked open slowly, their hinges groaning like they hadn't moved in a while. The dusk light spilled across the yard, painting everything in shades of gold and gray. Alex parked the car, stepped out, and began unloading her things. Tuna followed, the baby still sound asleep on her shoulder, his tiny breath warm against her skin. Alex walked ahead, not looking back, as if afraid that even a glance would make this moment fall apart. The air was rich with the scent of fresh soil and newly cut grass. Somewhere beyond the barn, the day's work was winding down, voices murmuring in the distance. Nothing had changed here, but Tuna had. She stood at the door of her old room, pausing. Everything inside was exactly how she had left it. The curtains she'd sewn still hung beside the window. A chipped mug she once favored sat quietly on the table. The bed was neatly made, as if waiting. She walked in slowly, lay the baby down gently, and turned toward the doorway. Alex stood there. "If anything here makes you uncomfortable," he said softly, "just tell me." Tuna looked at him. Really looked. There was no pressure in his face. No expectation. Just a quiet kind of hope. And for the first time, something passed between them that neither gratitude nor duty could explain. She gave a small nod. "I'll stay," she said. "For now." Alex didn't move closer. He simply smiled. Outside, the wind moved through the bamboo. brushing against the window like a lullaby. Tuna stood there, watching as he disappeared into the dimming light. Then she whispered to herself, not a vow, not a promise, but a gentle truth she wasn't ready to say aloud. If one day he looks at me not as someone he saved, but as someone he needs, I'll stay for good. Na had left once before, quietly and without warning. She'd walked away from a place where she never felt she truly belonged, where too many things were said too late or never at all. But now she had returned. And though no grand reunion awaited her, though no celebration had been planned, her return still meant something. Word had spread. The workers noticed. The neighbors noticed. And in the quiet language of the countryside, people spoke with nods and lowered voices. She was back. Alex's mother didn't say much when she saw her. But that night, the dinner table was full of familiar dishes Tuna liked. There were no questions, no lectures, just a soft, "You're welcome here," unspoken but understood. Later that evening, as she sat by the open window, holding her baby and staring into the fading sky, Tuna thought about everything she still didn't understand. Why had Alex never told her about the call? Had he truly not known? Or had he chosen not to bring it up so she wouldn't hurt more than she already had? There were still so many gaps in their story, so many things left unsaid. But perhaps that was okay. Sometimes love isn't loud. Sometimes it doesn't arrive with fireworks or confessions. Sometimes it just shows up, quietly, respectfully, waiting at your door with steady hands and tired eyes, offering nothing but space and time. And sometimes that's enough. For now, Tuna was back on the farm. Not because she was needed, not because anyone begged her to return, but because something inside her whispered, this might be worth staying for. A door had been opened, and whether she walked back through it fully or only halfway, that was a choice only her heart could make. In this emotional story, Tuna returns to a familiar place filled with memories, only to overhear a conversation that shakes her sense of belonging. As she quietly questions whether Alex's love is genuine or rooted in obligation, his family begins to realize the weight of their past actions. Alex, burdened by her absence, takes small steps toward change, while his sister seeks forgiveness. A visit, a meal, and a silent car ride become moments of reflection and healing. Tuna doesn't return with certainty, but with hope. The story gently explores themes of love, regret, and quiet reconciliation, where words are few, but emotions run deep. As Tuna stands at the crossroads of staying or leaving, the choice is hers, guided not by pressure, but by the silent truths that speak louder than promises.